I met Delynn at a church service.
Delynn, why don't you come on up here?
I was finishing up my law enforcement training academy, and I had been placed back in Detroit on our human trafficking squad. The pastor pulls up this young woman onto the stage, and she shared a very profound and difficult and in many ways disturbing story of exploitation. And, you're sitting there, you're in the position that you're in, and you feel deep within yourself that you have the ability to impact this woman in a positive way. That's the exchange that began a friendship between Delynn and I that carries forward to this day. I think about, not only the result that was achieved for her through the Joseph Project, but the many people who have received free legal aid and the many people who have been educated about human trafficking, thousands now through the organization. All of it is a result of reaching out to her and starting a friendship and working with her to resolve her legal issues.
So I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I lived in a middle class family. I had my mom and my stepdad and my brother. There was a lot of domestic violence, and at 12 years old, I was kind of pursuing love in all the wrong places and became a runaway. I met my trafficker at a house that I was at. It was at my boyfriend's house. He was yelling at me. When my trafficker walked in and witnessed this man yelling at me, he hit him. He said I needed respect, and he asked me to come with him. I was with him for months on end, being wined and dined. There was also another girl present who now I know goes out to the street, makes money, and would come back and give him money. After so long, he told the girl that it was my turn. I was raped, I was beat. During one of the events, I was stabbed 9 times. I also had a couple of fingers that were broken because he hit him with a hammer. A clavicle bone from when he tried to drown me was snapped in half. He called my friend, who was supposedly my friend, and she came over and tried to clean me up the best as she could. And then they put me in bed for a couple of days. Eventually, he came back there and I was still bleeding out, and he says, "You're gonna die if I don't take you to the hospital." And he dropped me off in front of the emergency room. I woke up and my jaw was wired shut. I was there for over a week and a half. I didn't know what medical insurance was, or that you would even get billed for something that happened to you that you didn't do. I received a knock on the door, and it happened to be somebody that was serving me papers saying I was being sued for my medical costs.
Imagine being charged the medical bills associated with your own physical assault through no fault of your own. And so that's when we connected her with Matt and Amanda Paletz.
Her story was literally almost unbelievable in what she had been through, what she had come out of on the other side. And the way that she spoke about it was so matter of fact that I remember being shocked by the brutality of it, shocked by the fact that she survived it. The hospital had sued her. They were coming after her. They were garnishing her wages. I reached out to my husband and said, would you be willing to help her with this, because he comes from the area of collections and hospital collections specifically.
It's just one of those things where you just have to have a little bit of tenacity that I have usually used in the other side of that equation, but to be able to use that to help someone like Delynn was obviously very gratifying, and in the end we were able to accomplish that, and now she can be free of that emotional burden. And I can't even imagine what that's like. It's almost like being continually victimized.
I remember being struck by how thrilled she was and how relieved she was about something that maybe you or I might not be so concerned about. For her, it was almost like I could hear in her voice that the weight had been lifted from her shoulders, and almost like I finally won something. I finally achieved something. Something went my way. And it was really awesome.
So debt relief and credit repair for Delynn were really only small pieces of a larger puzzle. The second part of the equation for us was attempting to resolve the criminal elements of her record that she had acquired in the course of a decade plus worth of exploitation.
Through the years of being trafficked, I did accumulate several charges, quite a few misdemeanors and a few felonies. So I could be standing on a corner because I'm making money, and the police would pull over and they would give you a ticket for soliciting. Of course, I would take it. I'd go to jail. I depended on drugs so that I could not feel what was going on with me and what was happening to me. Of course, I always had them on me. I would get caught with them, and then those drug charges accumulated as well.
And thankfully, we were able to connect her with some incredible attorneys, Ellis, Lee, McKinstry out in the state of Washington, and then Jones Day here in the state of Michigan.
When we first received Delynn's case file, reading through it was excruciating, I would say. So not only did she grow up in a broken home, she was exploited from a young age, but just how that happened was really impactful to me, and I think happens too commonly.
She's just a delightful human being. Just loved talking with her on the phone. We loved her energy. We loved her kindness. Her background is one that was very powerful to me, and I believe to Kenzie, because she clearly came from an abusive background. She was clearly exploited by people.
I met Delynn almost a year ago now, and I remember it. I'd been expecting her to be impressive. I'd read a little bit about her story, but she knocked me away with her poise and warmth and the way she spoke about everything she'd been through. She had her darling daughters with her, which was also quite a pleasure. And Delynn came into my life that way.
Jones Day helped me with the Michigan State charges. That was pretty extensive. This is where I accumulated the most. I had to go to every city, every county that I was charged in and go in front of the judge. Sometimes it was via Zoom, sometimes it was in person. I was appreciative of Jones Day because they would equip me for what could happen, what could be asked, what that looked like. It was very encouraging throughout the time that I didn't have to guess. And with Washington State, I had some attorneys that never met me fight for me.
In Washington State, she had 8 criminal convictions and then an extra dismissal. Several of those, I believe, were in juvenile court.
In the state of Washington, vacation has a very specific definition, which means that if the court grants a vacation, the person can truthfully say they were not found guilty of the offense and it is not on their criminal record, which is very important for somebody getting a job.
And before you know it, my juvenile record was sealed and my adult record was expunged.
So I should say at the start that this was a real team effort working with Delynn. A number of lawyers at Jones Day, including Callie Barr, Michael Watkins, and Parker Feldman, all helped with different aspects of her case. And it was sort of a slow win. It didn't happen at one moment. Every time a court granted our motion to expunge some of her convictions felt like a real success, sort of one step closer. And I watched Delynn kind of gain confidence as those cases went by. As we started to get some successes in the court, she became more and more confident in talking to these judges and telling her story. The moment that we got the very last convictions expunged was, of course, the most important and the happiest one. But for everyone, it was still a huge relief, and for Delynn in particular, what it means for her to be able to go off and enjoy the rest of her life without all of this baggage.
As the expungements were taking place, there's a time that lapses before it comes off your record. So the Joseph Project, Amanda, would check just to make sure that once a charge was expunged, that it wasn't showing through the system. So it was almost surreal that she'd be like, okay, this is This is not showing anymore.
I think what was most meaningful was the last phase where we were able to run a background check just to see if everything had been processed. And so we received what's called a watch report in Washington, and we got one back completely clean. It said there was nothing on her history, whereas before there had been 8 or 9 things that showed up and a whole lot of other convictions and arrest history. So it was extremely meaningful to have that come back entirely blank.
Firstly, it's really just an important story because of the person that Delynn is today. You know, she's a mother of 3. She's gainfully employed, faithfully providing for her family. She has a bachelor's degree. She's in the process of pursuing a master's degree, so she is a graduate student at this time. And, you know, when you think about the story that she has and the exploitation that she's endured, and to be able to go from that past to the future that she's living today, each and every day, that's a beautiful thing, and it's a testament to the power of her faith, her decision to persevere, and the power and the importance of not overlooking the one, investing in one single valuable life that has such potential bottled up within it, and it can lead to such good down the way if you're willing to make that initial investment. And in many ways, her story and the relationship and the friendship that she and I share is really foundational to the founding and the incorporation of the organization. The Joseph Project really believes, and we've been saying this for years now, that the concept of freedom really extends beyond basic notions of physical confinement. You know, to us, freedom is achieved when a person is moving forward into their bright future fully unencumbered by the issues that would otherwise hold them back. And that's exactly what Delynn is doing today. And we're so very proud of her for that. We can't wait to see what she does next.
As far as the feeling of everything being expunged or sealed, it was a relief. I think that I can compare it to how my sins have been forgiven, and they're actually just forgiven here on earth too, through the government. So I felt new. I felt that I had opportunity. Just as when I gave my life to Christ, I felt like I was a new creation. But I owe it all to Christ. And so if I could say one thing to anybody, pursue him.